So hello again. This one is going to be understanding and using relative and absolute cell references. Now, by now I think you understand the whole idea of cell references because it's been discussed in 2 or 3 videos continuously. So let's just have a look at what's going on here. You see how this one says C2 and then something about D2, and then the next one says C3 and something about D3, and each of them keep going down, which is to say they always relate to whatever is next to them. Now those are called relative cell references, which is to say it's relative to the position of itself. So as you move your cell, your references move with it, and you get the idea. They basically keep following you. Now if I was to say, I'm just going to take this and I'll show you in a minute, or explain to you in a minute what I'm doing. If I do this, I get different numbers. And the reason for that is that with these dollar signs, I have created an absolute reference. And going back to this one, you see how they keep moving. Whereas with this one of them always refers to C2. So that's an absolute reference. If you have something encased in this whole dollar column, dollar row, that makes it an absolute reference, which is in plain English meaning it has become fixed, and even if you move your cell around, your reference will stay identical to your original. Now the way you achieve this is one of 2 ways. You can actually just type the dollar sign. Alternatively, you can use your keyboard when you're in edit mode, like I am now, and use the F4 button, and each time you press F4, and I'm just cycling it through now, each time you press F4, it cycles through fixing both just the row or just the column or neither. And if you have more of them to fix, you can select it and then do the same thing. So that's how you create and modify absolute cell references. And if I fix everything and just paste it down, you'll notice they'll all be the same, because now all of them always refer to the same cell, which means they never change. I hope that makes sense. If not, do leave a comment and I'll try to get back to you and answer any questions you may have. Thank you. So hi, and this video will show you how to use the basic functions of sum, average, minimum, maximum, count, counta, and round, which means this is going to be a slightly longer video. If you want to just look at the individual ones, there are videos on these individual topics in my playlist, and they're very short and easy to understand. This one is just the basic few functions. So we have a bunch of numbers here, and we want to do all those things that we just had. So if you want to sum things, and on purpose I'm going to call it total again, and average, what was it, min, max, and counta. And you notice that this is just text. There's no formula, no magic, no nothing. The way you call a formula in general is you start with the equation sign, so equals, then you say, for example, sum, and for sum, as it says here, you have your number 1 and your number 2. And there will be a video at some point about good practices when using formulae, but the idea is that rather than having something along the lines of this, you know, how number 4, number 5, they keep going up, it's suggested that you don't do this. Instead, you could use your mouse and just do a selection, and basically it will sum up all the things between E2 and E16, and you get the number you're after. So that's sum. Average works much the same way. Average, and if you typed in part of your function, like I have AVE, and I know I want average, I can just hit tab on the keyboard and it will finish it for me. So if I want to do E2 to E16, same with min and max. And now comes the fun part. So if you want to count things, there are ways to do this, and count, as it says, counts the number of cells that contain numbers, which is to say, if I have this one counted, it will come to 13. And if I count all, it will also come to 13. Why this is interesting is that if I was to count items in here, none of them contain a number. Count these guys, it will come to 0. And the reason for that is count only counts items that are numbers. If I was to stick in 1 here, or even a 2, it doesn't matter, it will say 1 because, well, one of these are a number. Whereas if I count that bunch, it will come to 14 because, well, guess what, the actual count of these not being blank is 14, and note that the weight is blank, which means it does not get counted. So that's the comparatively quick version of going through these 5 or 6 basic functions. As I said, if you feel this is a bit rushed, there are videos on each and every one of them separately. I suggest you watch them. When you feel you're comfortable, we can move on to the if function, which will be the next video. So thanks for watching. Hi everyone. This video will show you the if function, and there is another video I've made a while ago which is going to be much the same in content, but we're now going through the ECDL syllabus, so I figured I should include it again, and if you're watching the whole thing, then at least it gives you an idea what's going on. So the logical function if is basically a true or false statement followed by what should happen if it's true or if it's false. And the easiest done is by demonstration. So you just say if, and then you have a logical test, which is to say you're testing if a statement is true. So for example, I could say if E19 is smaller than 4, and then you basically tell it what you want it to be if it's true, and then you tell it what you want it to be if it's not true. And so we could say if it's less than 4, text, and text is done by double quotes, less than 4 and double quotes, and then double quotes again, not less than 4. And it will say less than 4 because obviously there is less than 4. If I now say plus 5 or plus 2, then it ceases being less than 4 and you get not less than 4. If you care about the details, you can always come into this FX button, and it tries to explain to you slightly more so what you're doing. So in this case you have a logical test, which is, as we said, E19 is less than 4, which evaluates to be false. So it's already suggesting to you that this is going to be ignored because it's false, and your if it's false value is whatever you have here. So the actual final outcome is going to be this value. Just to see what I'm talking about, it changes as you type. And of course, if you now say OK, it updates accordingly. So I hope this makes sense. I know it's a bit quick, but I think for the time being, you just need to understand the idea of if works in a very simple way, and there's a lot more to if. Further down the line we can discuss it. And the comparison operators, we've kind of seen them. Our comparison operator could be, you know, less than, equal, or more than. I think you get the idea, but if I was to say, let's say equals 5.33, and it might not work because you see it as 5.33, but it's probably not. It is 5.33. It isn't. And you'll find, oh, it does work. Okay. You'll find that if we change this back to what it used to be, it stops being 5.33. Therefore, it now evaluates to false. And you know, we've seen the lower than something something value, so you get the idea with the higher than something something value. So I hope that makes sense to you, and if you have questions, do ask, and I'm happy to answer any cues you might have. Thanks for watching.